There is a story that has been circulating quietly among league insiders, one that feels more like a whisper than a headline, something that almost no one was supposed to know before it slipped through the cracks and found its way into the public eye. It begins in Denver, where the Broncos front office was not as quiet at the trade deadline as everyone believed. The truth is they were making calls, they were exploring possibilities. They were thinking about what it would take to add another offensive weapon before the playoff race truly began, and that weapon was none other than Jalen Waddle, the Miami Dolphins' dynamic wide receiver, a player known for his unmatched speed, crisp route running, and ability to change the rhythm of a game with a single play. Multiple sources began piecing the story together. NFL insider Jordan Schultz was among the first to report that the Broncos had in fact reached out to Miami. The word he used was monitor. Denver had been watching Waddle's situation, studying it, wondering if Miami might consider letting go of one of their brightest stars. There was no public sign that the Dolphins were shopping Waddle, but behind closed doors conversations were happening. The Broncos wanted to know the price, and when they asked, they discovered just how steep it was. Miami's front office reportedly made their position very clear. They were not going to let Waddle go unless the return package was enormous. Benjamin Albright from KOA Radio added more fuel to the fire when he reported that the Dolphins wanted a first-round pick and additional compensation, something that would make any general manager pause. That price tag was enough to make most teams step back, and it appears Denver did the same, not because they could not afford Waddle's contract, but because they refused to overpay. The Dolphins were in control of the situation. They knew what they had, and they were not desperate to move him. Waddle, of course, is no ordinary receiver. Drafted in the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft out of Alabama, he quickly became a cornerstone of Miami's offense. Over 4.5 seasons, he has built an impressive resume with 350 receptions for 4,715 yards and 24 touchdowns, all before turning 27 years old. He is a game-breaker capable of stretching defenses and opening up the field for teammates like Tyreek Hill. His presence alone can change how a defense lines up, and that is exactly the kind of player Denver wanted to add to an already strong unit. Financially, the move could have worked this season. Most of Waddle's salary was already paid through bonuses, leaving just over $500,000 on his contract. The Broncos had more than enough room under the cap, with roughly $4.6 million available going into deadline week. They could have absorbed the cost easily and still remain flexible for future signings. Next season, Waddle's cap hit is expected to jump to over $11.6 million, but even that would not have been an issue for Denver, given that projections show they could have nearly $50 million in space by 2026. The money was not the barrier. The challenge was the price in draft capital. According to reports from Mike Kliss at Kusa TV, the Broncos were active on multiple fronts. They were in discussions about several players, but in each case, the asking price was simply too high. It was a pattern that repeated itself throughout the day as Denver's general manager George Patton worked the phones trying to make a move that made sense both for the present and the future. He wanted to improve the team without mortgaging their long-term flexibility, and when the offers on the table failed to meet that balance, he decided to stand pat. Now Denver moves forward into the second half of the season with a 7 to record, sitting at the top of the AFC West and tied for the best mark in the league. The team is strong, and the chemistry is clear. Cortland Sutton continues to lead the receiving corps with 38 catches for 566 yards and 4 touchdowns, while rookies like Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims have begun to emerge as reliable targets. But still the question lingers: what if the idea of adding Jalen Waddle to that offense is something fans can only imagine? But insiders know it was closer than anyone realized. The fact that the Broncos made the call at all says something profound about the organization. They are not satisfied with being good. They want to be dominant. They want to compete with teams like Kansas City and Baltimore, not just in regular season games, but deep into January and possibly February. The pursuit of Waddle, whether it was a serious negotiation or a strategic probe, reveals a front office that is always looking ahead. And yet the most intriguing part of this entire story might be what happens next. Rumors like this have a way of resurfacing. Sometimes a phone call before a deadline is not about completing a deal immediately, but about opening a door, creating a relationship, starting a conversation that could evolve later. If the Dolphins ever reconsider their stance or if circumstances shift, the Broncos will already be in position. They will already have laid the groundwork. For now, though, Denver fans can only speculate. They can analyze every insider tweet and every whispered report. They can debate whether the team should have pushed harder or been willing to part with a first-round pick, but one thing is certain, this was not just random. Interest, the Broncos saw something, and they went after it. Keep an eye on this story, because in the NFL, the deals that almost happen often tell us more than the ones that do. They reveal ambition, they expose strategy, they show who is quietly preparing for something bigger. So stay tuned, like the video if you are following every twist in Denver's journey, and drop a comment about what you think might happen next, because this story is far from over.